Have you ever had a looming feeling of existential dread that no matter what you do, you won't be able to escape what's coming? That's part of what I feel represents Majora's Mask. Though it really does is persistence and forgiveness. In the face of that feeling, you push forward through it and come out on the other side, even when all odds are against you. It's crazy how the developers were facing a looming threat of time to make the game, and so does the player with the looming threat of the moon. But both have to find their way. I'm Colton, and welcome to my Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask retrospective. This video took a while to make, so a like, comment, or subscribing really goes a long way. Anyways, let's really get into my thoughts on Majora's Mask. The start of this game comes chronologically right after Ocarina of Time. Link is searching for Navi after he saved the kingdom from Ganon's takeover. He's riding Epona through the woods and suddenly comes to a hole where he falls down and lands in this very strange place on a Deku flower. The Skull Kid from the last game has two fairies and has Link turned into a Deku scrub. One of the fairies, Tattle, decides to stay with Link though because Skull Kid left them behind. Link then meets the mask salesman, who says he's lost Majora's Mask, which used to be used in rituals. This is the one Skull Kid came to wear. He says he wants it back, and also says he will help Link turn back into a human if he can get his ocarina back he lost. That's when you exit the clock tower into Clock Town, a place that has so much to explore, and just all around a whole lot to do. There's many people you can meet along your way, but as a Deku Scrub, you can't do much yet. You're stuck in this form where the threat looms with no way of fixing it, unless you get that ocarina back. Through the first cycle, you meet the Bomber Kids and play hide and seek. This allows you to get the code to get into the Astral Observatory and the Bomber's Notebook, which helps you keep up with the people of Termina. Once you go through the sewers, you can make it to the Astral Observatory and see Skull Kid taunting you. Once you go through the sewers and up to the Astral Observatory, you'll see Skull Kid taunting you, and then must wait for the clock tower to open up on the third day. This gives you a walkway to the top where you confront Skull Kid, who has your ocarina. He hits Tattle's sister, and you shoot a bubble at him to make him drop the ocarina. Once you do this, you see a cutscene where you see Zelda from the last game, and it's really the only time you get to. And you can use the Song of Time she taught you back then and reset back to the first day. But also, go tell the mask salesman who helps you return back to human form, though you still keep the transformation mask left by the Deku Scrub. This is where the game really starts opening up for you, and you have to restore peace by going to each different land's temple around Termina. You have the swamp to the south, mountains to the north, the Great Bay to the west, and Ikana Canyon to the east. You'll be led to do them in that order, and I would assume it's linear, though I don't actually know, to be honest with you. Also, another location you can go is Milk Road with Romani Ranch and the Gorman Brothers place around it. With all of this at the player's disposal, you now can really start with your adventure. And I'm going to cover the main quest and then have a section for all the mask and big side quests. So first, you're led by Tattle to go to the swamp. You go through the south exit of Termina and have to go across the field as well. You'll see a lot around here. There are holes you can go to, some chests, and also a flying evil bird that steals your stuff, so please avoid it at all costs. Though once you reach the entrance to the swamp pathway, you come across a drawing of Skull Kid. This shows a cutscene where Tattle describes how Skull Kid had been arguing with his friends, and Tattle and her sister had found it. And later on you find out who this was, but for now you go off to the swamp. Once there, you just have to walk to the southern swamp, but when you get here there's no way to get any further, and you must go to the Magic Hag shop. Once here you'll see a pathway behind the shop, and you'll come across a monkey who leads you to a witch asking for help. She tells you to get her sister, which you can find back at the shop. These are also the same models as Twin Nova from Ocarina of Time, but in this game they're not canonically the same. Once you find her in the shop, She gives you a red potion, and you can go back to help her sister. She then becomes the swamp tour guide, of course, because why else would this exist? And you also get a pictograph machine from the swamp guide sort of guy. Like, he's not the guide. He's kind of just like a extra dude that's there, and you can take a picture of the Deku King or Tingle, which ends up being his son, to get a heart piece. Once you use the swamp tour guide, you'll arrive to the first village of the game. Though there are a lot of problems. First off, the water being poisonous, clearly not ideal. But then once you go inside the castle, you find a monkey being nearly executed for a crime he didn't commit. The princess had been taken away by someone else and needs to be saved, though they won't listen and just blame him. This leaves you to go around the Deku Palace secretly. One way gives you a heart container, and another magic beams. This isn't a very hard sequence, it's just kind of time consuming if you do mess up because it teleports you back outside completely and you have to talk to the Deku Scrubs again. Though once you find the guy who gives you a magic beam, you can use it outside of the castle to reach a secret entrance. This then leads you to the monkey who you're too short to cut down, sadly. If only you could be a Don't Leak from the last game. Things seem pretty bleak, but then he teaches you the Sonata of Awakening as Deku Link. This lets you go to Woodfall Temple, which is absolutely filled up with poison. Out of all the temple areas of the game, this is definitely my least favorite. It's just inconvenient and time consuming. The colors are drab, and I mean it fits a swamp, but it's just not my favorite combination. Just really, and like, I do like the really gloomy aspect, just not how much of the same colors it is. But the gloomy aspect is really fitting. You fight some new enemies here, but your goal is to make it to the other end, hopping from Deku Flower to Deku Flower. Eventually, you'll reach a very big platform where you need to play the song the monkey taught you. And that's when a huge rumbling happens, and a temple comes from under the water up to the surface. You then can enter and find out what temples will typically be set up like. This whole section really does give you a grasp of what the game is like as well. Anyways, you can go in and find yourself in this entrance room, though each room has a different way to solve its puzzle. Also, there's a lot of back and forth with fairies, and there's always some central chamber. Your goal is to find keys and fairies if you're like me, trying to do literally everything in the game. Also, sometimes you'll get a major item, like this temple you get the bow. And finally, after doing all of these different puzzle rooms, you'll get the boss key. Honestly, the boss for this section is the most mysterious, but he's also the least connected in a way. He ends up being Odalwa, the masked jungle warrior. He's entrapped a giant and the princess in this temple you've been in. His fight isn't very hard, to be honest. He just moves kind of sporadically, and once you dodge, leaves a really big opening. A typical boss fight for a Zelda game, but I do love his design though. He just doesn't really have any relation to anything else, unlike the bosses you'll see later on in the video. He's just eerie. Once defeated, he'll drop his remains in a heart container, which then you get a cutscene in a very misty world where you see a giant. He teaches you the Oath to Order song, which definitely is never used later. You find out just a little more, but honestly not that much. Danger still looms with what seems like a very little chance to stop it. With that in mind, you're off to a new area you have to save, though you do find the princess and return her back to the king. He then frees the monkey while the princess is furious with him. They thank you for saving her, and you get gifted the truffle mask. The swamp overall has a really cool design, and it reminds me a lot of something like Donkey Kong Country or Banjo-Kazooie. It's just the Woodfall part makes it where it's just too much of it. The boss is alright, and the temple is okay, but to me, it can just be a slog, which is its biggest downside. Going constantly in and out of flowers can be annoying, or just a lot of back and forth for fairies isn't nice. Also, Woodfall just takes longer than it should to get through, too much flying around. Though overall, it's pretty fun and really does help set up the rest of the game. Now onto the mountains. After exiting North Clocktown, you can head through the start of an ice-covered area. You'll find a ramp and go onto the road of Mountain Village, where you'll find some new enemies. And once you arrive at Mountain Village, you'll find a house that's pretty nice later. It definitely does not give you an awesome thing. And also a random cliff with water in front of it. Anyways, you go past this house to get on yet another road to another village. This one leads you to Goron Village, and you have to go around some ice wolfos, and you can also find Tingle to buy a map, of course, as you can in every single area. And as you walk over all the bridges, eventually you'll come to reach an opening and enter Goron Village. As you know from the last Zelda game I covered, and also Ocarina of Time if you played it, Gorons are supposed to be in super hot areas, definitely not frozen completely over ones. You'll see many shivering and fearing death from how cold it is. Also, the owl shows you how to get to the Shrine of Truth with feathers falling on impossible platforms. This shrine ends up giving you the Lens of Truth, and you can hop back across and use it to find a Goron floating who says to quickly follow him. You'll then use the Lens of Truth a few times through this to eventually make it to the Goron graveyard after a long climb. This one also requires you to use the Lens of Truth to see all these different ladders, which, by the way, I somehow managed to miss one when I went up, and it went up the wrong way, and it lets you go up for a while before being like, oh, there's actually not a ladder here. So then I had to go back down and then go back up again. Very, very unfortunate. But what you find out at the graveyard is how this entire section is going to be about acting as Darmani to save the Gorons. He died from the giant Goron at Snowhead, literally blowing air at him, and he fell off and died. But he was supposed to be the one to save his people, and now you must fulfill his job of going to Snowhead Temple. You do this by playing the Song of Healing to free his spirit, and this allows you to get his transformation mask for changing into him. Once you do that, you visit Goron Village and now can enter the center place in town. They have the door closed because of the cold, but with a Goron Pound, you can open it up. Again, for some reason I didn't realize you could just do this, and I kept trying to ask the guy to open it and getting down there in time, just to realize I could ground pound it anyway. You'll find the people in disarray because a baby Goron won't stop crying, because his father and elder went looking for Darmani that you replaced. Well, how convenient. So now you need to go find him and do. Through this quest, you end up learning the Goron lullaby, and the elder can only remember the first part, which is kind of sad, but it's all you need when you help the child calm down, as since you play it, he'll give you the other part of the song. It is a cool, like, connected moment, though. I really do enjoy that. Having to get the different generations to actually help you fulfill the song. The Goron in the way, he just needs a lullaby to be played, and boom. He's just out of the way. One thing I do particularly like about this place is the desolate environment it creates. Just as much as a desert can make things seem bleak, so can a place covered in snow. Winter is literally metaphorically related to death most of the time, while spring is related to life. And that's exactly what you're trying to get this place back to. Not to mention how it is the exact opposite of what the Gorons need, of course. Once you're past the giant Goron, you can make your way up the mountain and walk inside Snowhead Temple. This one was a lot of fun, and it has many different colored doors that all lead to many different puzzle areas. And to me, the puzzles are pretty fun. Like some requiring you to roll around in Goron form, and also if you're like me, it has even more to do to get fairies. Also, I like the hitting blocks to make the center platform lower, or using the Lens of Truth to find like an alcove. And you find a chest, which is always nice, and a lot of them will have like the fairies. And I like that these fairies, while there are some where you have to go back to another place you were, a lot of them are pretty much in order. There's also a puzzle where you have to ground pound these different buttons in order, and once you do, a new door will open up. Even just the part where you roll on the walls in Goron form and try not to fall off is fun. It's like a little drift corner that you have to get across without falling, or you have to catch all the way back up. All around, to me, just a great dungeon, and the design really feels like a place that's so bleak. Though you'll get fire arrows to fire a path of hope through it. Also, you have to fight a Wizrobe the first out of many times. Many times. You literally just have to shoot at them, and then, just hit him in his place he's at before he can hit you. And then, once he gets in his final form, he'll just dash around, and you have to find the real one and hit it. But once you get the boss key and arrive to the boss room, you'll see Goat, the demon of the Gorons, frozen. Though to get through this, you must unfreeze and fight him. It's really weird how they set that up. You don't walk in and just automatically have to fight him. You have to allow him to thaw out to fight him. This battle is so fun to me. You have to roll around the room, hitting green jars to restock on magic, and get in spike form to hit him. This can sometimes cause him to fall, and you can do a very large amount of damage. He throws rocks back at you when you're chasing him and makes stalagmites fall in front of you as well, which can really kill your momentum. Also, if you get very far behind, he can shoot electricity at you. Though overall, his fight is really easy and just a lot of fun. It really is a moment where you can kind of just kick back and just have fun. And I enjoy that he already has some relation to Gorons. Once you do defeat him, he runs and crashes into the wall, entombing himself with rocks, and leaves his remains for you to pick up. Once you pick them up, the second giant is freed, and reveals what they are: guardians. Though you still don't find out exactly of what yet. Though when you exit the cutscene, you'll see that spring has come for the Gorons, and the snow has begun to melt away. They now can live comfortably and live in a way that has been brought back to the mountains. And the mountains in the springtime are really nice and give off that feeling well. You use the Song of Time, and now it's to the Great Bay. This section is definitely my favorite looks-wise, though the temple and boss, in my opinion, are kind of meh. Also, I just want to say real quick, I'm sorry that I'm kind of going through these step by step and just talking about what happens. I want to tell you the story before I really delve deep into it, but I'm also giving my little interjections in here, so I'm not just literally reading the story from scratch. And I just want to talk about how the game makes me feel too. But yeah, I want to give the story out, and that's why I'm reiterating all of it. Anyways, you go to the Great Bay and find a Zora man in the water, just laying out. He asks for help and you drag him to shore. At shore he seems off and says he's Macau, that he was going to get his mate's eggs back, and that now he's going to die. And he randomly gets up all sporadically though. You use the Song of Healing to free his soul, and you can get another transformation mask. This transformation mask turns you into a Zora, obviously, and you can swim very fast, shoot fins at people, and create an electric barrier underwater. You then can head off to this house in the middle of the area. It ends up being a marine lab, and you can learn from the old man you need to find the Zora eggs quickly and put them back in the aquarium that's at the correct water temperature. To do this, you need to go find the pirate's secret hideout and navigate your way around it to find the eggs. It's heavily guarded by Gerudo pirates, though if you're like me and you got the stone mask early, which I will cover later, you can just walk around them. Though there are many boss type ones you can't get around. They're fairly easy though, you just have to try to counter them, and there you go. This area feels so claustrophobic, but it's very fitting for what it's trying to do. As you navigate around, you'll find the hook shot, which comes in handy straight away, and you also find a few Zora eggs before you need to leave. That's also why I decided to go ahead and get 4 bottles, because you can get each egg if you do that from here without having to come back. Once you head back out, you can drop these off and find the rest, which were taken by sea snakes. A seahorse will help navigate you through some murky water, which I kind of found cool for some reason. And you can find the very eerie sea snakes. They really remind me a lot of the eels from Super Mario 64 and Jolly Roger Bay. Even just how off-putting they are give that. If you're like me, you can take all of them out to reunite the seahorse lovers. Though you'll find the rest of the Zora eggs here, and you can bring them to the laboratory. This will put all the Zora eggs in the same place, and they become music notes. This teaches you the new wave bossa nova song you need for later. And you also fulfill what Mikau wanted to do, which is nice. Just a heartwarming moment. Then you can go to the Zora Cape and meet the band, as well as Lulu. You can have some very cool cutscenes with the band, but you go outside to talk with her where she has lost her voice. But through her kids' song that they taught you, you can play the song, and this helps her sing, and this massive turtle arrives to take you to the Great Bay Temple. Just heartwarming how it's all attached together. Once you enter, you're welcome to this very dark, water-filled place, which is fitting, but just the water can get very annoying to deal with. I don't think water levels just suck like some people, like the ones that just rag on them. But when looking for all the fairies, it can feel like a drag, especially when going from the central area where if you miss a door, you have to go around again because it's like a turbine spinning in a whirlpool. The mechanical piping and things like that mesh okay with the water though, and go with the boss for sure. But it makes you understand why those were there later. You also get ice arrows that can help you create a walkway through different parts of the map. And you can hit enemies with it and it'll freeze and make like frozen blocks, but then you also can just make pathways through the water with ice. Though outside of this temple, you literally use it maybe twice. I don't even know about that, just maybe. Definitely a very underutilized arrow. And just item in general. The way this temple pretty much works is that you open up all the different colored pipes, and this is, through different rooms, and the turbine will move in different directions, like it'll be going clockwise and then counterclockwise, and in each of those rooms you have to open up all the different pipes, and it changes the way that it's going, until eventually you'll find the room with the boss key, and then go down the final pathway to the boss room. That's when you'll find the most annoying boss in this game to me, Georg. He is who imprisons the third giant and also pollutes the water of the Great Bay Coast. He waits to jump and tries to snag you into the water, and he literally crunches on you and you lose so much health. Not to mention he also knocks on the sides of the platform to try and throw you off, and it as well just knocks you over, and it takes you 25 years to get up for some reason. He fits the game for sure, especially with the purple color and eerie way he looks and fights. Eventually I got the hang of this battle though by shooting with arrows and dodging him better than I originally was. I'm just kind of trash at games. But once you do enough damage, he'll release tiny ones to take you out. You can just kind of run through them. It's not very hard. You can go into the water, use your electric thing, jump back out, and then just go back to your strategy of killing him. And then finally, when you do enough damage, he'll flop onto the platform and slowly die. And then leave his remains behind. This cutscene leads you to the same area as the last remains, and the third giant is released and says, "Help our friend." I wonder who that could be. Friendship is such a key part of this game, but I really do want to save talking about it for later. Anyways, this whole section does well at making you appreciate the people in an area. And for the main quest, it's definitely the best at that. The band is a whole lot of fun to get to know, and I really cared to save the Zora eggs. You have the bleak beginnings of Mikau dying, but you persist to fulfill what he wanted to do, just like Darmani. I will get more into some of these things later, but now you can continue onward to Ikana. And so honestly, I went to the graveyard prior to the Great Bay section, but I'm going to cover it here just so I can stick to what happens in each area in order. Anyways, first you can go to Ikana Graveyard, and I will cover what you need to do for the main story and save the rest for the side quest and mass section if they are optional. Anyways, at the graveyard you'll come across Skull Kita, a very creepy looking guardian in the graveyard, though he ends up being a cool character you meet. You have to slice him before you can reach the end of the walkway, and you can do this by pretty much shooting him with an arrow, and it'll stop him in his tracks, and you just have to catch up to him and hit him. And once you do that, he'll turn to you and actually speak. You'll help him realize he's dead and the war that were going on in Ikana Canyon are over. And it's very heartwarming as he gives you the captain's headgear and you let him leave his post finally to go to rest. Just absolutely fitting to these games' themes of fulfillment and forgiveness. You also can use the captain's hat to enter the grave in the graveyard each day, and eventually you'll receive the Song of Storms from Flat, and you also fight 3 different Iron Hands, which are a very interesting mini-boss. And you need it later, the Song of Storms, to use against Flat's brother, Sharp. With that, you need to go to the Gorman's place on Milk Road and race them. Once you win, you receive the Garo's Mask. Why do they have this? I really don't know. It's very odd. This lets you pass by the Wandering Soul guy, and you can enter Ikana Canyon. Once you arrive, you'll see so much death around you. Redeads, a river lacking water, and just the desolate wasteland you're in. You can go to the cave in the back to find Sharp, Flat's evil brother, and he can be defeated by playing the Song of Storms, as I said. This brings water back to the river, and you'll see a girl come out of the music box house. She'll run back in if she sees you, and you need to cause a noise for her to come outside. And then you can run in the house without her noticing. You can find her dad having been turned into a Gibdo. This obviously is a very jarring and creepy sight in this game. Though you can use the Song of Healing to free him from the curse, and this lets the dad and his daughter comfort each other and reunite. Just wow. It goes from such a creepy, weird situation to just being so heartwarming, and that's what I love about this game. Like I said, I'm going to get into it later, but I really do love these things. He gives you hints about what to do further in this area. Next up is the well. Luckily, I went ahead and got the items, though if you didn't, honestly this part of a game can have a lot of back and forth, which is this is honestly why it's like my least favorite. You go into the well and find Redeads in a maze. To go through the doors you want, you have to give them some different items. These include 10 Deku Nuts, a blue potion, 10 bombs, and more. Once you reach the end, you get one of the coolest pieces of gear in the game, the Mirror Shield. This lets you reflect light onto surfaces or specific enemies. I don't know, it's just awesome, and I love the eerie nature of how it looks as well. It's just really cool. This can be used right after getting it to get into Ikana Castle, which is an awesome section of the game, to me at least. I know it's kind of dark, but I feel like that's the point, and it looks great, especially on this Nintendo 64 version I'm playing. And it's mainly just a collage of puzzles, and it has a whole bunch of heart pieces you can find in between them, which, by the way, of course I did. And this area heavily uses the Mirror Shield, and gets you used to how it works. Your goal is to get to the throne room, where the King of Ikana is sitting in. He has 2 guards who fight you, and what you have to do is shine light into the room by lighting the curtains on fire. The skeletons won't come while you're in it, like they won't come to you and hit you while you're in it. And then they are incapacitated if you hit them with the light. This takes them out pretty quickly. You literally can just come up and like whack them once and they go down. Then the king himself will fight you, and he's just about the same. Just bigger and can do more damage, though he's not too hard to fight. This causes a scene where all their spirits come together and they all bicker, eventually again realizing the war is over and that their souls can finally rest. Also, the king teaches you the Elegy of Emptiness, and this allows you to leave a statue of each form at a place. So there's like a Deku form, which isn't useful, but then there's normal Link form, Goron form, and the Zoro one. And typically you use them on switches. You find out through the story that the evil is being spread from Stone Tower Temple. With the Elegy of Emptiness, you can now make your way up to the Stone Tower. To do this, you must head to the northeast area of Ikana Canyon, and you'll see places to hookshot and use the song to leave statues of each form on switches. And typically they'll have different orders for each section, and there's stones rolling down, and you're just slowly escalating up and ascending up the Stone Tower all the way to the temple. And once you're ready, you do the same setup to open it. This temple uses all of the masks in the game, the transformation mask, and also the Elegy of Emptiness throughout it, as well as all of the gear you got. Also, you get a new one, light arrows, one of the best representations of literally lighting the way through all the death and darkness you're fighting against. The only part that's meh in this temple, in my opinion, is the fairies, but I'll get more in that later in a different section. it definitely does not have to do with how you have to flip it upside down and go outside of it and flip it back up and then flip it upside down again, but I digress. Anyways, again, you'll have many different types of puzzle rooms, like one where you have to use Deku flowers to get across a sea of lava, water-filled rooms, rooms that require hookshotting, using mirrors and like charging them up and then reflecting them on other places, and more. You also fight many mini-bosses. The Wizrobe is lame. Don't care. There's no opinion that you can have. I literally you fight like 6 of them. Especially if you go get like one of the last hard pieces in the game at the secret shrine, you fight 6. Just lame. The Igor guys aren't too bad. They have like a pretty cool design to me. Just the way you fight them is boring. You walk up to them and then they slowly come towards you and like throw rocks at you, and then as soon as if they miss, you go up, hit them in the eye, bam, there you go. Though the best mini boss in the game is in this temple, Gomez. He's a Grim Reaper looking entity, literally having a scythe and being shrouded in darkness. He also has bats surrounding him, and I very much enjoyed this fight. It requires you to shoot him with your bow to get rid of bats, and then counter his hits, and then get a hack at him. To me, he's just a really cool mini boss, and of course fits this area's theme of death. Like, he's just awesome. I love it. I don't even know how much more I can go into it or how much I can describe it. It's just great. To me, out of all the mini bosses, just blows the rest out of the water. The geckos don't stand a chance. He is by far the best. What you'll find in this temple that's unique to it, though, is that with the light arrows, you have to go outside, shoot the red orb on it, and it'll flip upside down. This completely changes the temple and creates this awesome atmosphere where the sky is below you. And many rooms have new puzzles. You also fight an Igor that spawns a chest when defeated and drops the giant's mask. Once you get the boss key and go through the door, you fight Twin Mold. To me, again, this is another very cool design boss because they give off the Eater of Worlds from Terraria, if you know what I'm talking about. Like, it's just really cool. I do love them. And like, their colors are really cool. But what's sad is they are by far like the most pathetic fight in the game. You just put the giant mask on and have to follow them around in a sandy area, and you hit their face or tail, and then each one will die separately, and you can just obtain their remains. It's kind of sad how easy they are. I don't know why they're the last, big boss of the game before, the final one. It didn't really live up to that. Of course, you get another cutscene when you get their remains, and this giant tells you to forgive your friend. Tying into the themes, of course. Then it's time to set off for the moon. Though I want to go into it later, so now I will go into the mask and side quest. Well, this is a huge part of the game, but I love most of them, so here we go. The way I'm going to do this is go over each optional and non-transformation mask, and they'll tie into their side quest. First up is the Great Fairies mask, and just the fairies questline in general. This one causes stray fairies to gravitate towards you and is actually very useful throughout. You have to collect a fairy in Clocktown for it, like you go inside of the stray fairy place and it shows you like a tutorial version kinda, and you get the Great Fairy from it. In Woodfall Temple, collecting fairies isn't too bad, and you get an upgraded spin attack from it. In Snowhead Temple, you collect fairies to get a magic bar upgrade, which to me is awesome. In the Great Bay Temple, collecting fairies can be kind of a nuisance due to all the water back and forth. Though when you do, you get an awesome defense upgrade. It just straight up goated. Awesome thing to have in the game. And finally, in Stone Tower Temple, you can collect fairies, of course, but it's definitely the worst one, which I guess is fitting for it being the last temple, but flipping it back and forth is just a nuisance. I wish there was some way that you could do it without having to go outside of it, have a whole cutscene, and do all of it again. You literally have to do it like 2 or 3 times. It's lame. And this can be a huge drag. But the reward is great. You get the Great Fairy Sword, and it's the strongest sword in the game. It's a little awkward to use just because it's one of the C-stick ones, but it's still extremely strong. And real quick, I'd also like to say there's another side quest you can do where you pay to get your sword upgraded, and then with Gold Dust, you can get it permanently upgraded to the Gilded Swords. Pretty awesome. Next up is the Bremen mask. It makes animals follow you around, and you get it from talking to a guy at the laundry pool in Clocktown. Not every side quest can be a banger, sadly. Kamaro's mask you get from Kamaro himself by playing his solo song, and he dances. He has a cool little jig, and then he gives it to you. You then can use this with the Rosa sisters to help them find a new dance move. Just a funny little quest. The Blast mask is also cool, allowing you to blow yourself up like a bomb. I really don't want to say that name because somebody's going to meme it in the comments. So we're just going to say S from taking the old lady's bomb bag. She gives it to you as a reward. Next up is the best non-transformation mask in the game. The Bunny Hood. It allows you to move much faster and jump farther. I constantly use this thing. Literally the best. You get it from using the Bremen mask at the Cuckoo Ranch, and you get all the baby chicks together for this guy as he wants to see them grow up. And once you get them all together, they do grow up, and he gives that mask to you. Literally awesome. I can't get over how great this is, especially in the Nintendo 64 version I'm playing. It makes you move drastically faster. Just great. To me, if you play this game, even if you're not going 100% completion like I did, you're just playing it, make this mask a priority. There's also the Mask of Truth, which you get from completing the first Skulltula house, and you literally use it once. These are definitely my least favorite side quests in the game. There's also one in the Great Bay, so of course I did both, but it's just really lame in my opinion. The puzzles are boring, the atmospheres are, especially the swamp one. Skulltula tokens are never cool at all. They were a letdown in Ocarina 2, which I'll get into if I ever make that video. I'm sorry to say it, but they're definitely my least favorite. You get the Mask of Sense after saving the princess, and the Deku Butler has you follow him throughout the Deku Shrine while he's going very fast. I never once used this mask though, literally one time. Then there's the Danjiro mask, which you can obtain after calming the Elder Goron sun down. You have to break the chandelier parts of the area that the sun is in till one drops a rock sirloin. Then you walk it to a ledge with a shivering Goron. You can give it to him and he'll give you this mask. It's used for the Frog Chorus questline. There are many frogs spread throughout the game, some in different temples and others just in different areas. Once you talk to them all in the same cycle and defeat Goat, spring will come and they will all reunite and you can talk to them and they'll sing. This gives you a heart piece. A pretty cool little questline for a kinda letdown of a mask. Romani's mask you can get after doing one of the most eerie side quests in the game. This is where you help Romani defend the barn from aliens, but you're also protecting her. You don't want her to get taken by these creepy aliens because it makes her all weird if you do. I ended up not having that happen to me, so I don't have the clip for it here, but you can just look it up on YouTube. It's pretty eerie. Just a very unique and creepy quest for this game. And then you have to defend Crimea from the Gorman brothers trying to break her milk containers on her wagon. This is a very easy part of the questline, and you get a very useful mask from it, as this mask allows you to get inside of the bar in town, the milk bar, and otherwise you literally can't get in. Next up is the Stone Match, which you get from using the Lens of Truth to see a soldier. If you give him a health potion, he'll give you this mask. It's super useful throughout the game, and especially through the pirate section, or even with the Redeads in Ikana Castle. They'll literally start dancing, and you can just kill them. It is amazing. The Circus or Troop Leader's mask, depending on what version you're playing, is probably the most useless mask, with a cool little quest. The Zora's band manager is worried about not having a show, though you can use all of your transformation masks and their instruments to create a full band. Gorman will complain after each individual one, saying that there's some racket that he doesn't enjoy. Though when they're all combined together, he'll tear up and say it reminds him of why he wanted to become a troop leader. And you then will receive the mask. The all-night mask just requires you to save the old lady and have the giant wallet. Then on the last night, it will pop up in the curiosity shop for 500 rupees, so you have to have your wallet maxed out. It can then be used to get a heart piece from Anju's grandmother, since you now won't fall asleep from her boring stories. It's just a funny little one. And finally now, I can get into the best side quest in the game, Anju and Cafe's questline. I know it's definitely been said a million times before, but wow, I just love this quest. It starts with you talking to the mayor's wife about finding Cafe. She gives you Cafe's mask, and you can head over to Anjou. She eventually will receive a letter from Cafe, and you then must deliver her mail. And when Cafe is distracted by the mailman, you run into his house. He then will come in and reveal his plight. He wants to get married to Anjou, but Skull Kid turned him into a child. This has caused him to go into hiding, but it's causing Anjou's family to think he ran away. You have to make sure she doesn't leave town while also helping Cafe. There's also a lot of optional things in between here, like each character's diaries, listening in on walls, and even more. S, the guy from the other time, is just a jerk. Took Cafe's sun mask as well. Though when you learn all this, he gives you a pendant to give to Anjou, and this will cause her to stay in town. After some time, you'll go back to Cafe's hideout in the laundry pool and can talk to the curiosity shop owner. He'll give you the Keaton mask, which you can use later to get a heart piece by completing a Keaton quiz. Of course. And he will also give you a letter from Cafe to his mom. This is where you have to do 2 cycles to actually do the whole quest. In one, you can just give the letter to the postman and he will give it to Cafe's mom, even though he really wants to leave town. His mom lets the postman leave and he'll finally relinquish his position. And then he will give you the postman's hat, and you can use this to get a heart piece from a mailbox. The other choice is to go help Cafe when he infiltrates Sakon's hideout, which is in Iconic Canyon, and you'll see the mask quickly. Though Cafe will step on a switch and it will start escalating back, so what you have to do is complete the rooms on both sides. One is Cafe and one is Link. Different switches have different effects on the escalator. Yellow make it go slower, red faster, and blue's eventually stopping it. If you stop it in time, Cafe will obtain his sun mask back, and you then can personally deliver the letter yourself to Cafe's mom, and she is very happy that he's okay. Also, you can talk to the barkeeper, who says he's hoped his favorite customer would come in on the final day, and he did, since it's you. Those little details add a subtle beauty to such an eerie game. Really bittersweet. As the final hours come and everyone is freaking out, you can meet with Cafe and Anjou, who meet up in the employee room of the Stockpot Inn. They exchange masks to be married, and it creates the couple's mask. They give it to you since you helped them reunite, and they decide to spend their last time together. Just really bittersweet, which this game is all about, finding these beautiful things in such awful times. But it also makes you even more want to fix what's happening and save these people from the destruction of everything they know. With that out of the way, I can finally get into what is my favorite part of the game. Once you're finally ready to take on Skull Kid, you can ascend Clock Tower when it opens on the final day. This will bring you back to the cutscene from the beginning of the game, but this time you actually have a chance. You can use the song Oath to Order to cause the giants to return and stop the moon from crashing down into Clock Town. They'll all walk up and start holding it back. This will anger Skull Kid, or at least you thought. The mask then comes off of him and reveals itself to have been using him as a puppet. This entity is who you actually have to fight. The giants were all friends with Skull Kid and didn't mean to leave him by himself, which you find out. Then the mask will go into the moon and you go up after it. Once you enter, it's literally the biggest twist to what you expect. I just feel like you would think, oh, this place is going to be dark or chaotic. But it's not. It's a serene plain with one tree up at the top. And if you collected all the masks, you can talk to all of the kids running around the tree. Each of them will ask for the mask, and you'll play hide and seek, where you can get a heart piece. And then you give them more masks once you find them, and each will give you a very odd question. The Aldalwa child will ask, "Your friends, what kind of people are they, I wonder? Do these people think of you as a friend?" It really can catch you off guard when encountering this for the first time. How odd. But it ties into the relationships and friendship themes of the game. Do you think all the people in your life you consider friends think about you the same? Next up is the goat child, who asks, "What makes you happy?" I wonder, what makes you happy? Does it make other happies too? It's pretty straightforward, but still very off-putting. Do the things that fulfill us do the same for others? Like when I make these videos, it makes me happy, but I hope it'll do the same for other people who watch them. Third is the Georg child who says, "The right thing, what is it? I wonder, if you do the right thing, does it really make everybody happy?" This is just a very conflicting question. It makes you reflect on that doing the right thing for some might be so wrong to many others. Nothing can ever make everyone happy. Fourth is the twin mold child. He asks, "Your true face, what kind of face is it, I wonder? The face under the mask, is that your truth face?" This one is very introspective. Everyday people put on masks to fit in, make others happy, fulfill how they want to feel, and maybe even try to make friends with that. Though you're not being yourself, this ties all the questions together and really makes you understand the introspection it's going for. It references your character in the game as Link used many different masks to help people. It relates to the Skull Kid doing all these things to make himself happy and not caring about others. And he also feels like the giants aren't really his friends. And then finally, the real life player's life. All these questions can relate how do people feel every day. And finally, you can talk to the Majora's Mask child who says, "Everyone has gone away, haven't they? Will you play with me? You don't have any masks left, do you? Well, let's do something else. Let's play good guys against bad guys. Yes, let's play that. Are you ready? You're the bad guy, and when you're bad, you just run. That's fine, right? And if you're like me, you collected all the masks and got the Fierce Deity's mask. Clearly, the Majora's Mask child is shown to be very lonely, who has manifested his power from all of the hate. You're the bad guy to him, just like to the Skull Kid. For a moment, the giants were. You then enter the final battle against Majora. He's a very eerie and just off thing to fight. First, I put on the mask and then started fighting him. He'll float around and do all these like different saw things, and you can just like he'll go into a saw form and you just have to hit him back, and then you can hit him while he's on the ground. Eventually, once you do enough damage, he'll bring all the evil masks to help him, and you can take them out as well. And then finally, he'll change into this other form, which is very creepy and slender, where he moves super sporadically around the room, darting back and forth. He's not too bad, it's just really creepy looking. And then once you do enough damage, he'll change into Majora's Wrath. All this anger put together to take you down. Literally has like spiked whips, and he's like a super tall, buff like form. It's so odd. Though with the empowerment of all the kindness from the people you helped, you can take down this huge form. And once you do that, the mask will be stopped. The Majora will disintegrate, the moon will disappear, the people of Clocktown cheer, and the giants can take a break for a moment. What an ending. But of course, I couldn't just end the video with that. After everyone's saved, Skull Kid will make up with the giants, and also you'll become his friend. Forgiveness is key to this entire story, and this ending scene shows it well. You give the masked salesman the mask, and also the Skull Kid will find you familiar, a reference to Ocarina of Time. The masked salesman says that the mask Link got during this journey, all the ones that he got, contain a happiness in them. He then will fade away after talking about the parting. The fairy siblings will leave to go to the Carnival of Time, and after all of that, Link leaves in the distance with Epona. Also in the credits, you'll see everyone you helped during the journey, if you completed their quest. Well, where to start? Persistence is of course key in this game, and you can see so many themes of it. Link literally has no idea how he's going to save this land, but as him you find a way from pure persistence, trying anything you can to help all these people you create bonds with. Even when encountering a hard problem in this game, you go through it. Just like real life, when you hit some awful speed bump, you may take a second to regain yourself, but you have to push forward. And forgiveness is huge too. Anju forgives Cafe, the masked salesman in a way forgives Link, The giants and Link forgive Skull Kid, and that's what fixes everything. But it's also about forgiving yourself. Even when you fail at something, or even when you let down someone you love, the way to start fixing that problem is forgiving yourself. And if you do just that, that's the first step in solving your problems. It doesn't fix things right away, but it is the first step. I know in my life I've dealt with that a lot. I may get into that in a later video, but not in this one. I just really do understand how hard it can be to forgive yourself or to not blame yourself for every problem that comes up around you. Though you have to fight this by forgiving yourself. Majora's Mask is a game I will never forget playing. I won't forget reuniting Anju and Kafei. I won't forget saving Lulu's eggs. I won't forget fulfilling Darmani's duties. And I won't forget letting the dead of Ikana rest. And I especially won't forget any of the experiences helping the people of Termina. This game helped me a lot with the understanding to persist and forgive. And I hope this video may help you understand why I enjoyed this game so much. And maybe you even learned something from my corny rambling. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you made it here, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe if you feel like it. And as always, stay safe